Welcome back to Faces of the Main Line. This is John Ricciutti at mainlinetv.org. And we're continuing with our guest, Jeff Erikson, who is a drug and alcohol rehabilitation coach and counselor. He's more of a coach than a counselor. Jeff, thanks for coming back.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
The last thing we talked about was stigma and labels. Let's talk about the paths to recovery.
When I work with a client, I try to meet them where they are. Okay, are you new to trying to? Are you just starting to realize that you've got an issue with a substance, or have you tried getting sober for years and it hasn't been successful? What have you tried? What, if any of those things have worked even a little bit, what are they? Are you a religious person? Are you a spiritual person? Are you a strong-willed person? And I can tell you pretty much every substance use abuser is a strong-willed person, because we believe we can fix this on our own. We're stubborn until we find out and finally realize that we can't. Like I said earlier, my introduction to rehabilitation was 12-step program, AA. And as I said earlier, I never thought I'd want to do AA. As it turns out, it's a pretty awesome program. But there are a lot of people think of AA as a very religious program because the word God is in AA. But God doesn't have to be the God that maybe was drilled into your head as a child, if you don't believe in that God. It can be, but it can be anything you want it to be. I choose to call it a higher power. Again, I can't describe it. I couldn't tell you if it is, if it's not. I just know that there's something out there that's greater than me. There's certain things to me that are miracles, and certain things that allow me to be more present in my day when I'm out on a walk, noticing things that I wouldn't have noticed before that make me happy, just as a for instance. So if the word God troubles you, you don't have to use it, or we don't have to do 12-step programming. We can do some 12-step programming. We use parts of it. There's a program called SMART, S-M-A-R-T, which is an abstinence-based program, but it's more in self-management. There is no talk of God or a higher power. It's basically actionable items that you can do each day, and you follow a path of these items as you progress. There's paperwork you do. You take little tests. You do. You fill out questionnaires about how you feel about certain things, and then we look at those and we relate it to your substance use. There's a program called Recovery Dharma. If you are a particularly spiritual person, if you want to delve into Buddhist principles, Recovery Dharma is a great way to start. It's a lot of meditation. It's a lot of, again, Buddhist principles. So we can use a combination of those things. We can do what's called harm reduction, and I do this quite a bit. Most people, well, not all, but lots of people who come to me are still in that mindset that say, I just want to learn how to drink responsibly. And I'll look at them and I'll say, okay, if that's where you are, then let's work on that, right? And we'll do some experiments. Okay? I'm not...
What experiments?
Well, okay, so you're going out this weekend. I want you to track, first weekend, I want you to track what you drank. I want you to write down how you feel before you go out. Write down what you plan to do as far as drinking. And then on Monday, we're going to talk about how successful you were at that. Or if you're going out with a friend, have your friend, and the friend may not want to do this, but have a drink, have a water. Have a drink, have a water. Slow it down. And after 2 drinks, you're going to stop. That's going to be it for the night. So programs don't have to be abstinence-based. But what I find in most cases is after a month or 2 of that, and why I call this harm reduction is because you're doing what you can to not go absolutely crazy. You're doing what you can to not be sloppy drunk, which to me, when you're in that state, is very harmful to you and to the people around you. So what I find is some of my clients, I feel some of my clients are successful. They don't yet have that total physical addiction to the alcohol. And we can work on the mental part by slowing that down a little bit, finding other things that will release that dopamine that we talked about. But a majority of them come back to me after a month and say, this just isn't working. I drink and I don't have an off switch. I can't turn it off. So that's when we start looking at an abstinence-based program. 12 steps, SMART, combination of many different things. And we don't even have to put a label on the program. If I feel that there is somebody who doesn't like labels, doesn't want to be associated with a particular group, it's fine. We can sneak in some of the principles without labeling them.
How has COVID affected the rise in substance and of an alcohol abuse?
Unfortunately, I think quite a bit. One particularly powerful tenet of rehabilitation and recovery is community. It's building a fellowship, of having people to talk to. Because when you're in a bad way and you feel like having a drink, one of the best things to do is reach out to somebody. With COVID, a lot of that ended. A lot of meetings ended. A lot of people weren't going to work. They were isolated in their home. An alcoholic and a drug user, isolation is the worst possible thing you can do. If you ever hear me say, I'm good, I'm just going to go home and be by myself for a few days, that's a red flag. Because we like to isolate, and we like to be, I don't say we like it, it just happens. We get too far into our own brains, and we end up doing things that are unhealthy. COVID brought on a lot of that isolation. And I think, unfortunately, abuse skyrocketed during that time.
Do you see more and more kids on the upside now of drugs and alcohol? Well, drugs they've made it so that they're, with kratom and putting them in nice packages like Lucky Charms, and they're just attracting kids to it.
Again, that's the same thing we talked about earlier with alcohol, how we promote alcohol. Well, we're doing the same thing with manufactured THC, kratom, CBD. There's a lot more education out there now than there was when I was a kid and when you were a kid, but there's a lot more drugs, and a lot of it is synthetic. Fentanyl, synthetic drug, extremely cheap to make, extremely easy to transport. Comes from China and Mexico, most of it. A pinprick worth of fentanyl can kill you.
Yep.
And it does, and it kills lots of people. And fentanyl can be found in every street drug that's out there. It can be found in marijuana. You asked me about young people, and what I find today, I grew up in the 70s, right? I smoked marijuana. I didn't do any of the other drugs out there, but I smoked some marijuana. Marijuana, and I could smoke an entire joint and sit here and talk to you. I think if I took one hit of marijuana today, I'd go into a coma. It's so incredibly strong.
Yes.
So just starting there at one of the mildest substances, marijuana.
Well, it's laced with other things.
And just all on its own is very strong. But when it gets laced with other things, it becomes extremely dangerous. And that's what you don't know. And most of the drugs that are out on the street today are street drugs. There are only a few places that sell marijuana that's FDA approved, right? or THC or CBD oils that are FDA approved. So you never know what's going to be in that drug.
Do you think marijuana should be legalized?
Yeah, yes. It's hard for me to say yes, but
Well, you don't have to defend it.
no, I'm not going to defend it. But I say yes. I mean, in its own way, it can be useful, but when it's abused, just like anything else,
just like gin,
it's not.
or vodka.
Yeah.
How do you feel about safe injection sites?
I think we need them. I talked earlier about harm reduction. I think people are going to inject no matter what because they are addicted, because their brain says this is the best thing for me to do right now. Isn't it amazing that they'll sit down and they'll go, I know I shouldn't be doing this. This is really bad for me. They do it anyway. Because that rewiring of your brain said, this is the only thing that's going to make me feel better. And it becomes more powerful than your own conscience. People are going to inject drugs. Lots of people die by overdosing. Safe injection sites have trained people on site that will be there with you when you inject. You're getting a clean needle. The other thing is a safe injection site might even be the first opportunity that anyone has to talk to this person about rehabilitation, to get them thinking about that. It's their first exposure, or if they continue using it, it's a continuous exposure to recovery and rehabilitation, which they otherwise wouldn't get.
Let me give you the other side of that. Having developed a film and spoken with drug dealers, that's where they're going to sell drugs.
Yeah.
What do we do about the pregnant mom that comes in there to shoot up? What do we do about the guy coming from Radnor or Bryn Mawr or Bluebell who goes in there, shoots up, and then goes off somewhere?
Yeah.
What do we do about the sex trafficking? Those are all a safe injection site is a facility to attract those people. Now this isn't my creative mind telling you this. This is from the conversations I had with dealing with drug dealers.
Sure. Yeah.
And women that were dating.
Right. Know the term. Obviously, it's a really complicated issue.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
There's no one answer. I still do believe that even with that, I believe those people that are going to a safe injection site would just go a half a block down the street and get it someplace else where it's not safe. At least at a safe injection site, they can test your drugs for you and see if it has xylazine in it. See if it has fentanyl in it. They have fentanyl test strips right there. They're free. You use them. You won't die.
Those are true.
Harm reduction, you won't die. First of all, let's keep somebody from dying. That's the base level. You can't rehabilitate somebody if they're dead.
Do you think that drug and alcohol abuse are on the increase in the United States? I know every country has their own problems, but we're not talking about other countries. We're talking about the United States.
Yes, I do. I think they are on the increase, and it scares the heck out of me. I do think they're on the increase. I think we need smarter programs. I don't think we need to be arresting everybody that has an ounce of marijuana on them and throwing them in jail. There's probably more drugs in jail than there are on the street. I think we need to get people. I think funding, rather than funding to throw somebody into prison, fund to throw them into rehabilitation, long-term rehabilitation, not that 7 or 30-day, not that 7-day detox period, not that 30-day rehab period. Long-term. You're putting somebody in prison for a long time. Rather than doing that, put them in a rehab center for a long time.
How did rehabilitation change your life?
I think the first thing it did is it made me extremely humble. When I went into rehab, I looked around And I thought, I'm not like any of these people. I'm not a drug addict or alcoholic like these people. That stigma was in my head. There were people in there from all different races, all different societies, all different financial levels. And as a stubborn, privileged person that I thought I was different than those people. I quickly realized I'm exactly the same. We were all exactly the same. We're all suffering from the same thing, and we can help each other out. So I've still got friends that I talk to every single day from that rehab 4 years ago. Some of the best friends of my life.
Do you think the way you've spoken today that you've described what a recovery coach is?
Partially, yeah. A recovery coach, just like a sports coach, right, might help you put you on a training program, help you learn how to throw a ball, help you learn the strategies of baseball or football or whatever it is, keep you accountable to your exercise program and to your practice. Same thing with a recovery coach. My biggest job is to lay out a plan for somebody and keep them accountable to that plan. And if the plan's not working, just like with a pitching coach, if this little tweak I made in your pitch isn't working, let's try something else. But I'm your friend. I'm also going to be very tough on you when it's called for. If needed, I can find all of the outside resources that you may need. Do you need help finding a job? Do you need help with someplace to live? Do you need to go to an in-house rehab? Do you need an IOP program? Do you need to see a psychiatrist? Do you need to see a physician? And I can help you navigate all of that. Because a lot of times when people are in that state, logic kind of goes out the window, and some of those things fall to the side. So again, it's meeting people where they are.
Well, you've been very educational and informative for me. Is there anything you want to add before we close out?
I don't think so. Other than if you think you need help, don't be afraid to reach out. There are lots of places where you can get help, and nobody's going to judge you. We're here to help you. We're not here to judge you. We're here to help you. And from my own personal experience, life is so much better now than it was 5 years ago. It's incredible. So, thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, appreciate it.
With Face of the Main Line, Jeff Erikson. I said Sobry?
Sobry.
Sobry.
S-O-B-R-I-I.
Sobry. This is John Ricciutti. Thank you for the time, and I certainly hope you've enjoyed the program and found it very beneficial.